couple things worth noting. It's almost the end of March. Like, how did that even happen? And so what that means is if you have gone to moodywine.com and signed up for my newsletter, you will be in the drawing to win a free bottle of wine. I will be paying for the wine, but you will not. So head to moodywine.com. Today I'm talking to Chris with the Tatted Psalm New York City. And so he's actually prompt, which I appreciate. So I'm going to let him on. So this is Chris Ryan. And my grandma said to never date anyone with two first names as a name. So fortunately I'm married and he's taken, but
Let's see. Boom. All right.
there he
That
is.
should be a little better.
There he is. Look at those baby blues. We're good.
Awesome.
So welcome. Thanks for joining me today.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for
Yeah.
inviting me on.
So I have been following you for a while, and what I really was found fascinating was you did this thing which probably only works if you have a cool story to tell. But in your stories, you did all these like cool slides about your past, and I was like, I felt like I was binging a show on Netflix because I like wanted to keep seeing what was going to happen. And then there was like a huge delay. I don't know, like if you had to go get your mail or something. And then I was like, how does it end? And then like later I went back and got to catch up. But for those that don't know, you have to give them your background. It's super interesting.
So honestly, like even those stories is just the tip of the iceberg. I'm 33 at this point, and I've literally probably worked maybe 30 something jobs.
Yeah.
Um, it's like a combination of me finding different passions and then like maximizing on them, and then nothing ever kind of paid for the life that I wanted to live outside of work, and which pushed me to the next thing, which pushed me to the next thing, which pushed me to the next thing. So I graduated from high school. I went into the military. Why? Because I didn't want to fill out college applications. As silly as that sounds, like college applications are $50 to $100 each, maybe more. I
Right.
didn't have it. So I was just like, all right, let's go see the recruiter. I was 300 pounds in high school. So the Navy said I didn't have to lose weight, that I would lose it in basic. The Army said I would lose it in basic. The Marines said I would lose it in basic. The Air Force said, we don't need you. You're fat, and we would appreciate if you just went with somebody else. And because of that, I needed to be in the Air Force.
Uh,
So in
you're
4 months, I lost the weight.
motivated. No.
I'm sorry?
You're motivated by no.
Yes. Which is like both a good and a bad personality trait. Um, but I do my best to try to, keep it in check these days. But yeah, I went in, I lost the weight in 4 months while working at McDonald's, which was a double accomplishment for me, a McDouble accomplishment. And yeah, that started it. I was in Korea for 2 years. When I got out of the military, I moved to Massachusetts. I was a personal trainer. I ran a GNC. I ran an LA Fitness. I then broke my ankle and had no health insurance, so I got into the corporate world, and started to work business development for Ticket Network, which turned into Metro Entertainment. And that's when I started to do comedy. One of my friends I worked with, Tony, um, who has since passed, he was the
Yeah.
same age as me, and he would go to this open mic in town at the Hartford Funny Bone every single week without fail. And he told me, he's like, yo, you're really funny. You should do this open mic. And the only reason I did it, I wasn't a fan of stand-up comedy. I hadn't really seen too much of it outside of like Robin Williams live on Broadway that they aired on HBO. And, so I knew he would be there, which meant I would be the second worst person of the night, just doing the math. And I did it. And I actually ended up not being bad. It went well enough for me to keep going. And within that year, I moved to LA.
So okay. So you get into the military. but before that you lose weight. And are you just focusing when in your diet and weight loss? Are you focusing mostly on physical fitness, or is it a combo of diet and fitness at the time? Because you're
Oh,
working at McDonald's, so that's brutal.
yeah, it was an I'll call it a crapshoot because honestly, like now, I did a personal training, nutrition for years, so now I know I did everything wrong. It worked, but I didn't retain any muscle, so I would eat very little. I would
Oh,
wake up at 5 a.m. every day and I would run a mile. And then I would run to and from work. So the McDonald's was maybe like 2 miles from where I lived. So that way I was doing more than enough exercise every day. All cardio though, no weightlifting, which is not the best idea. And then when I was there, I found out that their milkshakes, like if you look at their fat-free ice cream, it's like 90 calories, but their milkshakes were 700. And the reason is because of the flavoring in the milkshakes. So I actually figured out how to circumvent the machine and just have it pour the ice cream mix. So I would have a large milkshake and it would only be 90 calories. So I still got to eat like a fat kid, but wow, taking advantage of the benefits.
That's crazy. And then so getting into fitness, was that stemmed from the military?
Um, yes. Like my father was big into bodybuilding. He had meningitis, so he
Mm,
couldn't walk until he was 4 years old.
wow.
And then as soon as he could, he hit the ground running, would like go to the gym every day. They didn't have a wealthy family, so he would walk 8 miles to go to the gym, kind of
Yeah.
like some Abraham Lincoln shit, like, oh, he walked 15 miles in a storm to return 5 cents. Um, but he tried to instill that in me, but I was a little fat
Yeah.
kid. Like I hated
Yeah.
it. So when I got into the military, I dropped down to 160 at my
Wow.
smallest, which was, yeah, and I'm 6'1", so it looked
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. That's nuts. And then from there into comedy, and that was a pretty long stint. Was that like 10 years in comedy?
I would say 8.
Okay. And I mean, you
Yeah,
were
because
in films, you were, I would call successful. I don't know, like from a financial standpoint, but
yeah, I in the world of comedy and entertainment, I did well. For somebody who literally went in with no experience, no background, I made the most of it. I ended up writing
yeah,
for a lot of really cool people. I got to perform with people that I grew up watching. Like
yeah.
some stories better than others, like what's it, the goalie from the Mighty Ducks.
Oh
He
my
did a show with me.
gosh.
And I thought that was real cool. I was like, oh shit, like you were Goldberg from the Mighty Ducks. Like I grew up and as a little fat kid, like he was the fat kid. He was the
Right.
dude. You're like, yo, you're me. Like you're my representation. They always talk about equal representation in film. And that's what that was for me. So fast forward, now I'm 20 something. He's who knows what, but he's like, yeah, you think you'd give me a ride back to my place? So I give him a ride. He doesn't have a place. He's homeless. He sleeps on a bench
Oh.
on a corner in Van Nuys, or at least then he did. And he
Hmm.
started to do heroin in my car. I was like, oh shit.
Yeah. Yeah. No. Yeah, I
Yeah. Look,
have some drug use in my like family tree. And so that stuff just scared me straight. Like, I mean, I am in the wine business, obviously, and I picked my poison, but yeah, that would have tripped me out hardcore.
it was different. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, they say never meet your heroes. And, like now you know why.
Yeah. And so how did you get into wine? I mean, what was the like path that connected those dots?
I would say it was a beeline to Napa.
Mm,
Napa is 100% responsible for instilling the passion that hasn't subsided with it.
mm,
Um, like I lived my life pursuing my passions, and then as like I loved it. I love personal training, but there were things I needed that I wasn't getting out of it: health
mhm,
insurance, more money, stuff like that. When I went out to Napa, I was already working at Carmine's in Times Square, and I was working on the server side. And like, they would teach you this and that about wine here and there, but I wasn't just mentally prepared. I didn't see what I was doing as a career. I saw it more of an interim venture. And
Mhm.
then I went out to Napa and I saw servers and hosts and wine tasters and tour guides, and they talked about their families and their houses, and they all smiled and they were never upset. And when they were upset, they were still happy. And I knew, I was like,
Yeah.
that's what I want in my life. They've found the way to accumulate that. And
Mhm.
ever since, that was it. That set me on my path. I got back. I started to go to Cork Buzz in New York City, do all the blind tastings. I would go 3, 4 times a week. Shout out to them for being phenomenal. They always offered a $15 blind tasting flight for happy
Wow.
hour. So from 4 to 6 every day, and you're tasting top quality wine because it's owned by a master sommelier. So
Mhm.
I actually learned probably more there than I did through anything else. Um,
It's
yeah,
just that learn by doing thing, where you're actually doing the thing. Like, how else can you learn if it's not tasting the wine? I mean, I went to school and studied it, and I wasn't even 21, so I couldn't taste the wine. And so I learned all about the business and marketing and vineyards, which is super valid. But then until you can actually taste it, you like don't get it.
100%.
And so then from there, are you a somm now?
Yes.
And so where did you go to pursue that education?
I started through CMS. So I took the CMS test up in Lake Canandaigua. Past that, that was my credential for up until COVID hit. And then
Yeah.
COVID hit, and I had like a bunch of plans with Carmine's. We were working on developing a brand new wine training program and
Mm,
all these offerings, and it was going to be really, really cool. And then COVID hit, and the world shut down.
yeah.
And I spent the first month, like I see a lot of people posting their, oh, happy 1 year anniversary to my account, because a lot of us
Hmm.
had the same idea. We're at
Yeah.
home. What can we do? We have a passion. Let's try to tell people about it while taking dope pictures and see who we can connect with around the world. For
Yeah.
me, my time started more April because I spent the first month of quarantine just like watching Netflix, smoking way too much weed. Just, I didn't have a sense of purpose, and I was
Yeah.
more driven by depression than anything else. And then I got out of that funk, and I was like, you know what? I invested in my camera.
Hmm.
I started to take pictures, and if you go down my feed, you literally start to see the progression of just like an iPhone 5 picture with three
Yeah.
bottles on the counter to, just really quality stuff that I truly enjoy doing. And then that
Yeah.
took me out of that funk. I started to make videos, I started to take pictures, posting. I eventually found my voice. And yeah, it's been pretty good. And
I
then,
think
oh,
that's really,
so back to
oh,
the,
go ahead.
sorry, because you asked about the accreditation. So the reason I
Yeah.
even started talking about that is I said, why wouldn't I just get more certifications while
Right.
the whole world is off right now. Eventually it's going to come back.
Yeah.
So I started into the W set. I did the W set 1. I'm on the W set 2 now. I scheduled my test, but it's 4 months out. So my test is in June,
Hmm.
unfortunately. If I would have known better, I would have skipped 1 and done 2 right away. Just because of the knowledge I had from CMS already covered everything I learned in the first one.
Right.
I didn't know you could skip it, but you can. You can actually skip W set 1 altogether and just jump right into 2. And
You
then
could skip two even, right? I mean, you can go and take any test you want, right?
I don't know. I don't know that they'd let you go into W set 3 without completing W set 2. I feel like 2
Hmm.
is, and I could be wrong. It's definitely
Yeah.
something to research. Um, but you know,
Yeah. So I
and
have a really stupid question that I should probably know. So to be a somm, like what is the requirement? Because there's so many different courses out there. Like, is there just a certain certification you need, or is a W set one? Does that mean you're a somm, or how does that work?
so to be a som, you just work as a som. That's it. Like if you look at Raj Par, he's not his accreditation is life. It's a life lived, it's wine
Mm,
tasted, and he's one of the best sommeliers out there. He's not part of any organization. And that's it. Like as long as it really depends on how you got there, and who you know sometimes. But if you're already working in a restaurant and then they decide to start a wine program, my friend, if you've ever seen that Sam Phil, he
Hmm.
worked for a restaurant for a very long time, and then all of a sudden was like, you know what? We need to start this wine program. He showed them the benefits. He showed them the profit. If you hear squeaking right now, that's my dog.
I was like, is
Um,
there a baby or is it a dog?
yeah, that's George. He decided that
Oh,
now's the time to do that.
that makes
Um,
sense. That's fine with me.
and yeah, so like he started a wine training program, and then
Okay.
because of that, he decided to get certified. But in the interim, he was still very much a sommelier,
Okay.
just without a specific accreditation. And really, where that comes into play is a lot of restaurants throw it out there as a requirement. You
Hmm.
know, if they have you come in for an interview, that just proves that you have a base level of knowledge.
Sure.
So they don't have to, I guess, waste their time with people who don't. And
Yeah.
that's all. I really like, you could read all the books, never take the tests, still have that knowledge. And to me, you'd be just as much of a sommelier as somebody who did pass the test.
Yeah. I like that. I like that thought. It's just really logical and like real life, because how many times do you look at a job posting and it says degree preferred or 4 years experience in the required field? And a lot of times
100%.
those people with that experience are way more valuable as an employee than the one that has the 4 year degree because they've been doing it. So I
Yeah.
love
I
that.
mean,
So
that's
where are you going? Like, what's the plan? I mean, are you working in it or is it a side hustle or what's kind of your current situation?
my current situation is, it's a combination of 1,000 thoughts, a million plans, and then taking action. I'll say like 2 months ago, I was lucky enough to qualify for health insurance, right? For the first
Yeah.
time in so long. So I saw my doctor, I'm on Wellbutrin, like shout out to that because now I wake up with a sense of purpose.
Mm,
And that was my biggest struggle prior to that. You can have a million ideas, but if you take action on none of them, you just watch the world around you progress while you stay in the same place. And you still have the thoughts, why isn't this happening for me? Why did they get it? Even though you're not doing anything for it to happen
yeah.
for you. And that's like a huge thing for me. And that's been a huge boost because a lot of the plans and ideas I was able to put into action. The
Hmm.
t-shirt that I'm wearing right now, I actually just got this today. It's my sample shirt for my new line that I'm coming out with.
What?
So I'm really stoked for that. I'm probably going to officially launch next week. George, you're shaking the camera. Um,
And well, is that going to be on a website or is it going to be just social media?
yes. So I'm going to post through Instagram, but it's going to have its own website. I have a few different designs. And yeah, I'm going to start jumping into it and just start offering everything I can to try to fund my end game. Like I want to be able to do this full time, to be able to
Mm,
find a way to just like, I love teaching people about wine,
yeah.
especially if you walk into a restaurant that has a lot of young servers um, that don't quite know. I didn't know until I saw it for myself. I was living ignorant. I was living that, oh, I'm a server. Like that's the job people have in college. I'm not progressing. I have no future. And then I met the people who turned it into a future, who turned it into everything, who turned it into
Hmm.
something that like someone went to college and they're like, oh, I wish I would have been a Som. So I was like, all right. And now that's where I'm at. And I love showing young servers that they can have a future, not just, oh, I can make a couple $100 a night while I'm trying to find out what I want to do. This
Hmm.
could very well be what you do. And the more you learn, the closer you get to understanding every aspect of it. And then you start your own thing. And now you're killing it.
Yeah.
And that's it.
It's so interesting. So I love that you like how you've navigated your career. I feel like it's kind of like dating because it's like you find something you either like or don't like in your job, and then you move on to the next one until like if it fills that kind of box, and then you keep going, and then you've found this thing that you're really passionate about, and it seems like it help. Someone was calling. It seems like it's going to also be beneficial to others. So you're striving to educate the world in this thing that you have found so much passion for. And you just want to share that with everyone, which I think is really cool.
100%. And honestly, like nothing I've done in life has been a waste. You know, when you look at the experiences you go through, even the worst days, you learn something. You don't want to, depending on the mood you're in, obviously, like if you're going through a hardcore depression bump and you have the worst day ever, there's
Right.
going to be something inside you that pushes yourself to recreate those conditions
Mm-hmm.
because you want to sit in misery. But once you find yourself in a place where you're trying to explore happiness, it's
Yeah.
the opposite. I know these things made me upset. I know this mindset is poisonous to me. How do I fix it? And
Right.
obviously it's not just that simple. There are times where you're not going to be able to dig yourself out of that hole.
Mm-hmm.
But taking all these little tidbits of life that I've learned from everything I've done, from everyone I've met, from everything I've been through, you now have, oh, I did business development, so I know how to create, I know how to market, I know how to speak to people, I know how to reach out and really like not just touch your mind but your soul, because I can speak to all of everything that you go through. You know, like
Yep.
when somebody struggles and they have doubt and you speak to that doubt,
Mm-hmm.
it's fantastic. And then you
Right.
explain why. You remove the ignorance factor. You sit there and you go through not only this is what we're going to do, but why are we doing it?
Yeah.
With the young servers. It's, oh, why does it matter if I open a wine bottle properly? Why does it matter if I offer, them this or that? I'm a server. It doesn't matter. They're going to eat, they're going to pay me, they're going to leave. But then it clicks. Like,
Mm-hmm.
why? There is a reason why. And it's because
Yeah.
they can feel special. Put yourself in their shoes, especially now with COVID.
Yeah.
When everything comes back into the swing of things, imagine if you have a local restaurant that doesn't have like a 4-star mandatory thing, but the
Yeah.
guests that you have come in there then get a 4-star treatment. Your
Right.
whole restaurant is going to shift. Your whole mood is going to shift. And I like that. I like that a lot. And that's
Yeah.
what I look forward to doing.
Well, I think too, I mean, I am a marketer brain, and so I'm always thinking about, personas and avatars, whatever words you want to use, right? And what I like about you and your story and your page is you're not just this like cookie cutter person. I mean, to me, you are appealing to a whole different audience in the wine business that is so needed. I mean, you're educated and you're well spoken, but I mean, you're also just real. Like you've lived a life and you are living your life in a way that's passionate and that you're not just like going through the motions. So I just think it's really cool because you're opening up theoretically that market. So the wine industry should thank you.
Yeah. Well, thank you for saying so. I honestly love it. I love my support base. My follower base is tremendous. Like the messages I receive are 99% so positive. Like it feels like you have friends
Yeah.
everywhere now. And I'm so happy that that's the path I chose when I started it, because now I'm surrounded by positivity.
Hmm.
Um, and like I said, like no matter what you take, like if I have darkness in my mind, and that's eventually going to seep through, and I'll
Hmm.
say, like, I have seen other influencers get things or post things. I'm like, man, like I wish that was me. I still
Yeah.
have those thoughts, but then it's how do I push through that is,
Hmm.
all right, now I get cool shit. I'm gonna get there. And I try to look at it as motivation, like
Yeah.
Grape Chic got her French wine scholar. And that was awesome to me. Like it's great to see these people push forward, because then I look at
Yeah.
myself on a day where I'm like, I could read and I could learn, or I could watch Let's Make a Deal. Fucking shout out to Wayne Brady, who's my man. Um, but like, this week was a good week for me because Let's Make a Deal
Yeah.
wasn't on for some reason. So I did a lot of reading.
Yeah.
Um, and that's
Well,
it.
and I
I
think
see those
human
stories.
nature, yeah, and human nature with social media in general, there's so much comparison happening. And I mean, you and I have talked offline about things that we see that are like kind of posery, or like taking advantage of the system. And like there's those people out there. And so all we can do is be authentic and be true to our core and not, compare ourselves to the people that are maybe taking a shortcut that ethically you and I don't believe in, but is fully a line of business that's, exists. So,
Yeah.
and there are going to be those moments where you're like, oh, should I, but you wake up, you do you, and you accept that there's like spaces are going to come into your brain and push through it.
Yeah, exactly. And speaking to the poser aspect of it, it does make me
Yeah.
appreciate the people in my feed so much more because I know that I'm getting real perspectives and like, you have conversations every day with these people
Yeah.
and I like it. The number might not be as high as I want to be. I might follow a shitload of people,
Yeah.
which I do and I plan on doing.
Yeah.
And that's it. Like my goal is to hit 10,000 people by April, and
Hmm.
close. I don't know if I'll get there by April 1st. It depends on how many posts I'm able to get up.
Yeah.
And really, at that point, it's just for the swipe up link. That's it. That's it.
Right?
At
I
10,
mean, so you
10K.
don't have to pay for it.
Exactly. A creator profile, when you have 10,000 followers, you can sit there and say, swipe up on my story to go right to my store. And that's the benefit of that. And that's why that number matters so much. And like you said, so I've sat there, I've been like, all right, I could just buy like, 400, just pop them right in and I'll be there and I'll have it. But I'd rather earn it. I'd rather go the way where I'm not just going to get the followers. I'm going to have the interactions. I'm going to reach new people from around the world that I haven't
Care.
before. Yeah.
Well, and I think too, my goal, because I'm not a creator like you are, is just to nurture the wine business. And so I really focus every day on, am I adding value? Am I like to the people that are following me? Like, are they going to laugh? Are they going to learn something? I mean, I can't take myself too seriously just because I don't in life, but that's like my goal. And so I feel like if I'm doing that every day or as consistently as I'm able, then that number is going to grow, but it's the people that are actually interested in the same thing. Like if I went and bought it, that's not going to be relevant audience. And now it's like they're not going to buy your shirts because they don't care about you,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that's what you need.
And I really, that's the part that gets me the most isn't even like, oh, now they're going to get picked for partnerships over me. It's truly like, I lived out of a car for a part of my life. So I see so
Yeah.
much value in the aspect of paying for things that like, I'm never going to overcharge people for something because it's always going to be people over profit for me. And
Yes.
honestly, that's hurt me in some aspects. Like I might never be a millionaire because of it, but I'll
Hmm.
be a much happier thousandaire. And that's where it gets me the most because then I
Yeah.
see them and I see these people. Now these wineries to me aren't wineries; they're people. There's people behind
Hmm.
those accounts. I care about them. I want to see them thrive. And when I see that them interacting, like fuck, man, I really hope that they didn't just get taken by this person because we know what we're looking at, but not a lot of people do because they haven't studied it. We
Yep.
know when somebody goes and they have 400 likes for the first 16 hours and then all of a sudden bam, 1600 10 minutes later.
Yeah.
And
Right. And it's the game. But so now let's talk about wine right now. Like, what kind of wine are you drinking? Are you drinking reds? Are you drinking whites? What are you? Oh, got a little red
red.
in there. And
Yeah,
is
so
it a
I
specific varietal winery?
it is. So this one I just did that partnership with the new Sipped app last week.
Yes.
And part of the partnership was, hey, try it out, see how you like it, and then order a bottle off of whatever we suggest. Like, so that's what the whole process of that app is. Find out what fits your palate, tell them what wines you love, and then they suggest wines based on that. So they sent me Rioja. Bam.
Mm.
See that?
I love me a Rioja.
Ramon. Yeah. And it's honestly, it's really good. And what I love about it, like in my 20s, I drank to blackout. And that was like my thing. I was like, all right,
Hmm.
cool. I'm going to do a bunch of shit tonight that I'm not even
Yeah.
going to really be there for.
Yeah.
And I'm going to live my life that way.
Yeah.
Now I have horrible heartburn. So really, I truly drink for purpose. And
Mm-hmm.
when I look in this glass, you know, I see Rioja and I'm like, all right, cool. You know, like it's a medium intensity of color, and that's fantastic because now where am I going to slip this up in a blind tasting? I would probably
Yes.
put it in the same row as like a Zinfandel because when you know, you look at it, all right, cool, I can almost see through it. You've got that deep ruby color, but then you dip into it and you're like, all right, what's going to differentiate? How am I going to go into a blind? And if I have a Zin right next to a Rioja, how am I going to differentiate? If I have a Rioja right next to a Brunello, you know, like a Chianti where there's a lot more color to it. So you know, it resembles it and you go, okay, well, is the cherry sour? Is it dry? On this one, it's much more ripe on the verge of dry. You get the dry fig on it, which is why it would also be hard to differentiate between the Zinfandel. And then you go, all right, the Zinfandel has the spice, whereas the Rioja is going to have the cedar. And
Okay.
it's that smallest thing. It's like a puzzle. And
Yeah.
I fucking do not enjoy puzzles as far as like the visual ones because I get frustrated real easy. But any kind of like mental game, if it's a word game, fucking love Boggle.
Yeah.
It gets my mind moving and I love it because it's like you're solving a crime, you know, you're a wine detective. You're like, all right, what's in this glass? Where did it come from? Was it the person with the candlestick in the lobby? You know, and that's how I try to look at it. So every time you sit there with a glass of wine, there's appreciation. It's not just, oh man, I'm having a tough day. I want to get tanked.
Right.
It's there's something special in it, and I'm finding out what that is and why. And then that way, when people come into my life, I can introduce them to those same things that I've found, and I can speak to them directly. And then
Yeah.
they walk away knowing just one more thing. That's my thing, is if every day you say, all right, I'm going to learn one thing, at the end of the year, that's 365 things that you just, boom, you know? And obviously, some of them you might forget, but it works out real well, especially in the restaurant industry.
Well, I think you just came up with another shirt too, from blackout to blind tasting, or from blackout to blind, something like that. I would
That's
totally
true.
wear that shirt.
Yeah,
Well,
that's a great idea.
I always joke because my dad taught us as kids like to taste for things in wine, and we had little cordial glasses, and it was never a beverage that I intentionally overdid, right? I mean, sure, sometimes it was a byproduct of a 72 wine tasting, and even with spitting, you could still get drunk. But because that respect was there. And so I feel like with you, you learned that respect later. And so now you're just like, just engorged, you know, you're just obsessed. It's like really cool. It's neat
And,
to
and it
hear.
feels great. It
Yeah.
feels really cool. Like that's the being able to look into a bottle and see a place instead of a thing is fantastic.
Yeah.
And it really like, I don't know, it just makes things so much better
Yeah.
all around. Just having a passion like that. And then really, like I said, the restaurant aspect of it is great
Yeah.
because when you have people that you can impress upon, it doesn't even have to be a young server. It's really about you can meet somebody that's 70 that's never thought about it in a certain way before. Like my mom is a great example. She's not 70, but she is not a wine drinker.
Right.
She's a white Zinfandel, you know, on the occasion kind of thing. Like never a crazy wine drinker, not somebody who appreciates because she's just never been in that line. You know, she's a nurse. She, like I
Right.
said, white Zinfandel every once in a while. She'd go get pina coladas and you know that was that.
Yeah.
So then I got into wine and I decided, all right, cool, I'm going to bring you a fantastic bottle and I'm going to show you the difference between your bottom line Behringer, which is what you know of, and then a really like a masterpiece. You
Hmm.
know, you pop open Ian is a fantastic example, Smith and Devereaux wines.
Yeah.
Like you pop open one of those bottles versus something that people are used to getting. You know, you take a bag wine person and then you show them magic in a bottle,
Yeah.
and it's hard to disagree. Yeah, like restaurants, that's what I do. I take a young server, like, smell this wine, smell it, right? And then they're like, oh, that seems silly. But you go in And you're like, holy shit, like this actually does smell really good.
Yeah,
Exactly. And now here's why. Like this
right.
is a Cabernet. That's a Cabernet. Why does this one smell so much better? Mount Veeder, highest point in Napa, gravel soil, perfect hillside slopes, southern facing. Like you're looking at exactly what you need for the perfect conditions to grow the most expressive grape that you can possibly press. Um, and that's dope. It's fantastic to know it, but it's even better to be able to now project that out into the world so now
Yeah.
other people can know that too. And you go forward and you're just so much more confident.
Well, I can't wait to see what you do. Once Upon a Wine has a really good idea. They are saying to design a shirt for vets in wine. I think you should definitely do that too. We're just going
It
to
is a great
guide your
idea.
career right now.
Thanks.
Uh, now, if you could pick a winery to partner with, call your shot, can you? Is there one winery that you wish they would call you tomorrow to work with you?
Oh, so that's a tough call right now because honestly, I've had the opportunity to work with really like a few fantastic, no, nobody's been I've had one less than ideal experience, but everybody else has been like really, really not only fantastic through the, working together, but just really supportive. They're
Yeah.
people. Like I said, like when you take away oh, it's a bottle of wine and you look at the family behind it and then
Mm.
you learn their story. What's it? Average Bro Wine, Eric down in
Oh
Texas.
my gosh, he kills me. His Hawaiian shirt and mustache. I
Yeah,
love
and
that
he's
guy.
and he's he's living his best life. He is unashamed, unabashed, and he digs it. He
Yeah.
jumped into this hardcore. Cool story. We worked at the same McDonald's.
No.
Yeah, we found out. He was like, "Yeah, I'm from East Windsor," and I was like, "Seriously?" He's like, "Yeah, I worked at that Skidco McDonald's." I was like, "Seriously? Did you know this girl? Because I dated her." He's like, "Yeah, she was my manager." Um, and it's small world
Yeah.
things connecting people. But also shout out to Once Upon a Wine Cat because I know that she's an Air Force veteran, so that's
Oh,
that is a great idea. Um, but yeah, I think it's really cool. And for my t-shirt line, when I do it, that's actually one of the taglines on the first page is from bombs to bottles, because when I
nice.
was in the Air Force, that's what I did. I was an ammo troop, so I would build, maintain, store all large ammunitions, bombs, missiles, things like that.
That's really cool. Well, how can we support you? Follow you?
Um, Yeah, honestly, like that's the all I would ever ask is for somebody to, if they enjoy the content that I put out, follow me. I'm never gonna ask anybody to like, oh, you're not supporting me if you don't buy my product. I would love it if you did. I would love it if you love what I love.
Right.
But if you don't, that's cool. Like, give me some feedback. Let me see what you
Yeah.
would like to see out there, and that's it. If you decide that you want to, if you love the t-shirts, if you like the designs, which like I said, I'm going to try to drop those next week. Um, and it's Instagram. Instagram is a
Yeah.
world full of, I said this yesterday, entrepreneurs. Everybody is trying
Oh.
to build their life and to make sure that if anything like COVID happens again, their life is sustainable.
Hmm.
Because to lose everything in a day overnight isn't something people are used to.
Right.
Luckily, I've had a horrible life to a certain point, and I was used to everything being ripped out from under me. So whereas a lot
Hmm.
of other people went into their first depressions, I was chilling. I was like, all right, I already got my snuggie ready. We're good. Give me that iced coffee. I'm gonna be sipping it. Couple blunts rolled, and you know, so that's
Yeah.
it. But now I'm on the point where it's all right. I want a great life. I do. I know I want a great life, and I know that for me to have a great life, I need to create it.
Hmm.
I'm very lucky to have very supportive people around me, supportive girlfriend. Her family is fantastic. Like they're actually probably tuned into this.
Hmm.
Or actually, I think her mom said that if she can't, when you post it to rewatch, she's gonna see
To
it.
watch.
And it's awesome. Like it's
Yeah.
great to know people like that and to have them in your life because you're gonna meet a lot of doubters. You're gonna meet a lot of people on their worst day,
Yeah.
and whether they want to or not, they might project that negativity onto you. So to be
Hmm.
surrounded by so much positivity and just like, no matter how bad your day is, move forward. It's cool. I like it a lot.
Well, I'm just so glad you found wine because then I could find you and I will keep shouting your name from the rooftops because I really believe in what you're doing and your message. You just keep being true to yourself and we'll all come out ahead.
Well, thank you so much. And I
Yes.
appreciate finding you. Both you and Hannah definitely light up my days. I know that you
Oh,
work on awesome projects, and it's the same thing. You say, like, with that mentality. When I watch what you're doing, I'm like, fuck yeah. When I saw you doing, like, building the garden, like, yeah, I want to create this beautiful garden. And what an idea. And how
yes.
fantastic, because not only is that like, all right, it's a great idea, putting it into effect, taking action, getting it done, and then you're going to have something that is unique, that you
Mhm.
created, that you saw blossom from nothing. Like that's your newest baby. And I'm pretty sure you have real ones.
Yeah, I have
Yeah,
two
like you
real
have kids.
ones that have
Exactly.
kept
So
me up
that's
overnight for the past 3 nights. Yeah. But now I'm waiting for those damn seeds to bloom. I'm like sitting there like every day I go by the property. I'm like, where's my sweet peas? But yes,
yeah,
it's part of the process.
and I get it. And honestly, I'm gonna try to grow some stuff myself. It's probably not gonna be fruit based, but you
Fruit
know,
in a different sense.
exactly.
Yes.
Now that weed is legal in New Jersey,
Yeah.
things are changing. Life is looking up, and that's another thing about my story that I try to not be ashamed of showing, which is tough
Yeah.
because like I was like one time like, yeah, why don't I go live with people? And halfway through them, I start to get a little too high. And then I'm like thinking, and I'm in my head, and I'm like, oh my God, this is a terrible idea. I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Which is great that you asked me to come on at 3 p.m. because you caught me,
Yeah.
as lucid as I could possibly be.
Yeah. Well, I've seen you both, so and you're always very entertaining. And
Thank you.
I think you definitely bring something to the table, which is fun and educational and just good all around. So follow him, guys. Come on, let's get him to 10,000, damn it.
Yeah. And follow Moody Wine, Hannah Decanted, and everybody that's taken the time to comment. I've got my
Yes,
phone propped up on a ring light, so I unfortunately couldn't see some of the comments, but I'll
I
try to go
got you.
back through and check them.
All right. Well, you have a good rest of the day and we'll be in touch.
I will. Thank you so much again for having me on. I really appreciate
Yes.
it.
Bye.
See you.